My name's Keith Emery. I am your account manager with Starport Managed Services. We are the IT service provider for Holy Trinity, and very pleased to be able to partner with you and make sure that your organization is operational with your IT and secure. It's been a great partnership. With me, I have Eric Campbell. He's our head of cybersecurity. He knows everything there is to know about cybersecurity. I think I'll let you give a bit more background, but he's been in the biz for a long, long time, seen all sorts of stuff. We work with all sorts of clients. Sometimes when there's cyber attacks or different things, they bring us in to remediate things and repair things. So there's no substitute for real world experience when it comes to understanding cybercrime. And then we did have Enrique. I don't know. He should be jumping back on. He's your
He's
sort
here.
of dated. Is he here? Oh,
I'm
sorry.
here.
You know what it is? It's just the tiles.
I'm here.
I realize. Sorry, Enrique.
That's okay.
Yeah, Enrique is your guy. He's like your prime tech. So if any of you have asked for IT support, I'm sure you've probably had the pleasure of working with Enrique. He's wonderful. So that's everyone from the Starport team. I think before Eric kicks off the presentation, I'll just hand off to Nancy Cutler if you want to say a few words to the group.
Call your healthcare provider right away.
I just want to say, can you hear me? Because my
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to say welcome. This has been a few months in the planning, coming out of last fall, but the Joy Ministry team that I lead thought this would be a very useful session for our Holy Trinity family and for those beyond as well. So we will be sharing this widely, and we will also be arranging for things like telephone and other kinds of scams that go on. A presentation later this month or early in November from the York Region Police. So there will be a series of these types of presentations and documentation for you. So welcome, and I look forward to hearing all of the things that we have to be afraid of.
There is some interference. I don't know whether it's people who haven't muted themselves, but there's background interference in us trying to hear what is being said.
So maybe we all mute ourselves.
Oh, I think it stopped.
It was a radio or something.
Yeah, I think it's stopped now. I'm not hearing it anymore. Okay. Oh, now it's eerily quiet. Okay, should I start? Are we good to go forward? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Please kick us off, Eric. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Welcome everyone. Appreciate everyone taking their time to join us here. As I said, my name's Eric Campbell. I run the cybersecurity department here at Starport Managed Services. Today we're going to talk about cybersecurity awareness training. Today's presentation about cybersecurity is why it matters, how the threats are evolving, and what you can do to protect yourself and your organization. But I'd like to start with a question. What is cybersecurity? Basically, it is protection of your systems, networks, data, and from digital attacks. This presentation will consist of the following aspects of cybersecurity: fundamentals, risks, threats, creating safe habits, and emerging issues like AI and social media. Now, since this is a small group, I don't think we need to wait to the end just for questions. If there's something's unclear or you have any questions, feel free to, I think you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask a question, and feel free to chime in anytime you want. I think we've got a fair amount of time, and with this only being a few of us here, might as well tackle things as we come across them. Cybersecurity fundamentals. Cybersecurity is a critical concern for everyone, not just for people in IT. Home users, people work at corporations, everyone. It can affect everyone negatively if something goes wrong. The goal of this presentation is to introduce methods to help you improve your online safety. By adopting basic cybersecurity measures, you can protect your personal information, avoid common threats, and contribute to a safer digital environment, not just for yourself, but for others around you, family, friends. Staying safe in the digital world. As I reiterated before, it's very important. Cybersecurity is part of our everyday life, and it's the cybercrime out there is growing all the time. There's threats, new ones all the time. Someone mentioned earlier about being, scared about some of the things, and some of it can be scary. But if you get some good habits, adopt easily accessible habits, that that you don't even have to think about, just becomes part of your everyday life, makes things safer, and you're increasing your technical skills without even realizing it, and as well being proactive. It's and I think I mentioned this a few times throughout the presentation. I mean, if you could head off, scams and attacks before they ever happen, life becomes much easier. Dealing with them after the fact can be messy and not always guaranteed. So yeah, the whole thing is to make a safer digital environment for yourself. Examples of some very simple habits: stronger passwords. It's basic, but it can make all the difference. And even just being skeptical. Double check everything. Don't believe that the people don't always have the best intentions. Just little things like that can make a big difference. The trick is to being alert to risks and acting before problems occur. And once again, everyone can contribute to security. Not you don't just the IT people, the technically savvy. Everyone can help. If anybody would like at some point to share some personal habits that they do that they've learned, because of security breaches they've seen in the past or concerns they have, if you'd like to share, or if is there any threats that you've heard about recently that you're wondering about? Are they real? What can I do to stop them? You can raise your hand now if you want to talk about them, or at the end, maybe make a note. We can talk about those things a little bit. I want any input you have, because chances are if you've got questions, there's other people who have the exact same questions. One thing no one's raised their hand, so I'll keep going. One thing I want to talk about though is misinformation. Before we get into it, so you'll hear a lot of things like people, especially on Facebook, don't do this, don't do that. They'll get your access to your stuff if you do this. A lot of that's not true. Things maybe aren't quite as dire as you've been told. However, it's always better to be safe than sorry. A perfect example, and I'm sure some people have heard this because I've had this mentioned many times, but saying, if you're talking to an automated system on the phone, don't say the word yes. They'll record it, and then the next thing you know, they'll call up your bank and authenticate as you by using the word yes. If you step back and think about that a little bit, I mean, you can't take money out of your account by saying yes, so chances are they can't either. So that's definitely misinformation. However, it's still better to be careful than not. Things like that, you can double check with somebody who would know. And they'll be able to tell that someone can't access your bank account by saying the word yes or recording your drink. But still better to assume that is true until you know for sure it's not. And Starport, that's one of the things we're there for, is to help out with questions like that. You can send a ticket to the help desk anytime you want, and they can help you, look into that. And if they don't know the answer, they'll escalate it up to my team, and we can help you out and give you some more information. Just once again, better to be safe than sorry. Now, something I get sometimes from people is, because they haven't been personally affected, they go, why should I care? Well, part of it is it's not just your organization. It's you personally too. It affects us in all aspects of our life. And cybercrime is growing. It just never seems to end. Just they're always coming up with new and fancy ways to try and take advantage of you. It's more and more common. Entirely possible you know someone impacted by cybercrime. and or maybe even yourself, you've already had a touch of it. The every year, eventually everyone will, at least get exposed to it. And the problem is, even the smallest mistake can lead to a significant problem. If someone, a simple thing is clicking the wrong link, and maybe you opened up your bank account or given someone access to your computer, it's little things can really make a difference. So just being hyper aware all the time really makes a difference.
Eric,
Yep.
there's a question from
Oh,
John Carrington.
okay. Thank you. Let's see. Uh,
I think John, if you want to unmute yourself.
yeah, go ahead.
Eric, you mentioned that Starport, to send a ticket, set up a ticket for a question to Starport. Do you help people who are just the congregation of Holy Trinity?
I'm not sure. Is that actually that might be a question for Keith? How does that work?
Yeah, no, in terms of the IT support is for the staff of Holy Trinity. It doesn't extend to the congregants. But the idea is, I think this webinar is obviously open to anyone that Holy Trinity is invited, and we're happy to provide you with information to help you protect yourself, both in your engagement with Holy Trinity, but also on your personal side. But in terms of personal IT support, it doesn't extend to just the general congregation. Is that the question?
Well, yes and no. So I actually do work for not work, but I run some things for the church with the Zoom site.
Okay.
And I'm having a little bit of trouble with something. Can I speak to one of you afterwards, just quickly, to tell you what my problem is, and you can tell me whether you can help?
Yeah. If it's for church business, yes, you can submit a ticket.
Okay, thank
Do
you.
you have a Holy Trinity email address?
No, I have my own personal email address.
Okay. Yeah, you might want to work through one of the church administrators just to submit the ticket. The reason being that in order for us to identify the ticket and provide the support, it usually we look at the email address to be able to tie it to the
Okay,
company.
so I'm going to use Ed Carter down there. Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Go on.
Okay, great. Thank you. Prevention. Always better to head things off before they happen. So say an identity theft happens. You can get it fixed. You get new credit cards, you get new IDs. However, it can be costly. It can be very annoying. It can take a long time, and sometimes you can get bad credit ratings from it. It's always best to try and get these things ahead of time. And really comes down to understanding the risks and doing simple steps to protect yourself. And I'll get into some of those in the next few slides. But just staying safe. I mean, being aware of your surroundings. That I just wanted to provide a couple of examples. So in the last year and a half, we often get new clients because they've been victims of cybercrime, and they'll come to us to help clean it up and protect themselves for the future. So on a personal level, we've had 3 different people come to us where someone has gone online, found out all kinds of information about them, somehow managed to get driver's license set up with their name and picture on them, gone into a bank and transferred funds. You wouldn't think it's possible, but it's happened 3 different times when they've come to us. And in one of the cases, they never got the funds back. Another one, the other 2, they were able to lock them down. And we've helped them, showed them some tools so it doesn't happen again. And it's not just individuals too. We've had one in the last month where a person who ran a couple of small businesses, they got tricked. They made it seem like it was the bank, or they had enough information about them that they garnered online that the bank pretended to be from the bank, and then told them not to call the bank because someone at the bank might be a criminal, and they managed to get a little bit of money from each of their accounts. It happens, and we see it fairly often. So it's just something to keep in mind. That's why you should care. Recognizing and avoiding threats. Awareness, first step to protection. This section will illustrate some of the more common things to watch out for. Online everyday threats. So the main ones you'd be concerned about is phishing attacks, malware, social engineering, and public Wi-Fi. So phishing is fake emails, messages, can even be voicemails, could be SMS, text file, text, anything that they can try and trick you into revealing personal information or sensitive information and getting access to things. Malware and ransomware. I mean, everybody's heard of the old school viruses. You're always worried about getting viruses from the internet. Malware is kind of the step above that. So it's viruses plus other things. But the one that really seems to hurt, especially companies, is ransomware, where what'll happen is someone will come in, they'll get you to download something, and you run it, and then all of a sudden, all the files on your computer getting accessible. So what they've done is they encrypt them so that they're still there, but you can't access them anymore. And then they'll have a pop-up that pops up on your screen saying, "Hey, you need to send us money if you want to get access to your data again." And sometimes people pay, sometimes they don't. We're going to get one of the best things for that is backups. If you have backups, you don't really care if they've encrypted. The only other thing though is sometimes they've got an extra step with ransomware is not just encrypting anymore. They will actually make copies of your data, and then they'll try to sell that data, or they'll let you know they have that data, and they'll try to get you to buy it back because they know a lot of people have good backups. So you got to watch out for that. And some of them none of them are honorable, but some of them will give you, if you pay, they will give you the key to unlock thing. But even that doesn't work half the time. So you want to never get to that point. You want to have things in place. So virus protectors, different things. Keep an eye on stuff. Don't download things you shouldn't. Social engineering. Once again, too much information, sharing too much information on Facebook, things like that. Lets them get access. They can pretend to be you and guess their way into things. And another one a lot of people don't talk about is public Wi-Fi. So you go to Tim Hortons or McDonald's and you connect to their Wi-Fi. I mean, generally they're okay, but people can make fake Wi-Fis, and also other people who are connecting to the same one, even if it's the real one, your stuff's not secure when you're connecting to a Wi-Fi. So the better thing too is if your phone has data on it, use it as a hotspot. Data's gotten pretty cheap these days, so most of the time you can probably get enough to keep yourself more than enough data for the whole month and not have to connect to public Wi-Fis. If you do need to, um, you want to try and use a VPN that will encrypt your data so that people can't see it as you're talking on there. But you don't want to get just any old VPN. There's a lot of them out there, it's $1 a month, but it's really, they're trying to get your data too. You want to stick with the big names, like something like Nord. And then once again, if you have questions, you can reach out to our help desk to make some recommendations. And actually, sorry, I was actually going to mention, so social engineering, a perfect example. And I'm sure some of you heard about the grandparent scheme. So they get in the information, you've put information about your family and friends, and they find out your grandchild's name. And the next thing you know, you get a phone call pretending to be the police saying your grandchild's been arrested. You need to send bail money right away. And most people will fall for it, but the odd person does. My uncle, if he hadn't called me, he would have sent money for his grandchild, and this was this year. Same sort of thing. So it's just too much information out there, and they're pretty good at checking these things out. And now with AI, they can sometimes even, if they have copies of people talking, they can sometimes pretend to be that person. That one's pretty extreme, but as things improve, more and more that's going to happen. Once again, mindful awareness of these threats, that they exist, is your first step to avoiding them.
Just want to punctuate that last one from that you said, Eric, where you had the example of your uncle who was going to be exploited, but checked with you. So yeah, a lot of the attackers, they use emotion to override your rational thinking, right? So you can often look at these things and go, how on earth did this person fall for it? But if they can tap into your emotional mind, they can kind of override your rational mind in the moment and maybe get you to do something that you wouldn't normally do. So I think a good rule of thumb is always check with someone else. Someone else can come into the situation and look at things with a rational mind. So even if you're saying, no, I want to be helpful, like you're not saying no, because in the moment you're thinking, gosh, if this really is my grandchild, I don't want to not help. But if you can just check with somebody else immediately to get some perspective on something, that should help to inject, a rational perspective and make sure that you're not acting out of on an emotional response.
Yeah, thanks for that, Keith. It's true. I actually I do this for a living, and I almost fell for one about a year and a half ago. It was a Saturday night. I get an automated call from not my regular bank, but a bank I have an account with that I don't use very often, saying there's been a breach on it, and someone's been attempting to get into my account. They have a secure message for me. Please type in this code to access the secure message. And I double checked. It looked like it was coming. The phone call was coming from the bank. Everything looked right, and I was just about to type it in, and then I realized what they were doing. And we're going to talk about MFA later. Is they were trying to reset my password on my account, but because they were saying it's an emergency, you need to deal with this right now. It's about 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, getting ready to go out for dinner, and I just about fell for it. And I'm supposed to be the expert on this, and so it can happen to anybody. It's things to watch out for, and that's how they get you. They made it seem like an emergency, and they would have reset my password on my bank account. Browsing. We all spend, anybody who spends time on internet spends time with their browser, whether it's Chrome or Edge or whatever one you're going to do. There is some techniques to keep things a little safer with that. Because your browsing is, part of it. It's integral to navigating the internet. You really can't do anything about it. So you want to be as careful as you can. So one thing you want to do is you want to use secure websites. So you don't normally see the beginning part of you go www.thiswebsite.com. At the very beginning of that is there'll be these letters HTTPS and HTTP. If it's just HTTP, when you click up there, you can see that means that it doesn't mean it's a bad site, but it means it's not secured. So they get a certificate that they have to register with an official on the internet to get a secure account, and you'll see a little padlock beside when you look at your web browser. If you were to take a peek down, you'll see a little padlock there to show that it's secure. So it just means that the website you're at is what it says it is. Still not 100%. There are ways to get around that, but it's tough to get past those. So something to watch out for when you're on a website. Suspicious content. Look for weird websites, spelling mistakes, things that just don't make sense. Links that shouldn't be there. Different things, just be suspicious of things, especially places you've never been before. But even places you have been before, look for that little secure website thing too, because it could be somehow you clicked on a link that took you to what you think is the right page, but it's not. So you can always double check. As well, don't put. So if you get a pop-up asking for personal information, and especially if it's been a link that brought you there, don't put personal information. Verify that you're going to the right place. If you have to, type in the address of the place directly yourself. And I emphasize the padlock thing too. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just take a look at your browser and go to a website that's an official website, like even tdbank.com or royalbank.com, and look, and you'll see the little padlock there. It's just something to keep an eye out for. And then more advanced thing too is if you're on a website and you're not sure if it's real, once again, you can reach out to us for help. There's an advanced technique where you can actually, if you do something called a WHOIS, HWOIS, you can actually see how old the website is. So if it's been around for years, you're pretty safe. But if it's just got made in the last few weeks or even the last few months, something you want to double check that it really is who you think it is. And if you want help on how to do that, please let us know. And finally, update your browsers. And so every once in a while, you'll see your browser says something like, please restart for an update. Those are usually security. They found some kind of security flaw and they fixed it and they want you to do that. So either reboot your computer or just close the browser and open it up again. And actually, one other thing with browsers too is you can, I don't know if anybody does this, but you can do add-ons and add-ons and extensions to your different things to make things easier, like little apps that go into your browser. You want to make sure they're official, real apps. So if you're getting it from the Google Store or wherever you get your apps from, and you want to go with popular ones, ones that thousands of people have been using, is you're safer than something that it's only been downloaded 3 times. There's probably a good chance there's something bad with that. think before you click. I've brought up the whole clicking thing a few times in here, but let's just, step through it as well. You always want to be concerned about suspicious links, especially say you get an email from somebody and it's got a link to somewhere, and you may bring you to a website that you're absolutely sure. So a perfect example. So you get an email from what you think is Microsoft, and it's telling you there's something wrong with your account. The bill hasn't been paid, or the credit card is expired. And you click on the link, and you click on the link. Oh, I'm back. Let me go back up page. Sorry. You click on the link, and it pops up a message saying, please enter your login information for your Microsoft account. Microsoft doesn't usually do that. That's not how they do it. It looks just like the Microsoft site. You put in your information, and then they might have your login, and they'll try to reset it. You always want to double check who you got this from. Now, something you can do is when you do get an email, you mouse over the name. This is tricky. You can't really do this on your phone. So if it's something you're suspicious of, I would wait till you get to your computer, mouse over who it came from, and it'll show the real person. So it may say, John Doe at Rogers.com, but who it came from. But when you mouse over it, it's actually from, John Smith at Bell.com. So you just want to look things for that. And even then, there's still tricks to get around them, but they're much more tricky. The basics ones attacks, you can almost always tell that they sent it from, not from who you think it is by that way. And also if it's an unexpected message, if you get something out of the blue, that just doesn't make sense. Like normally you don't deal with, the banking on your internet account, and then all of a sudden it's asking you for credit card information. Just be suspicious. Never, and once again, never do personal pop-ups or personal data into pop-ups on untrusted websites. And that untrusted would be the ones with HTTP, not without no little padlock beside it. Be skeptical, verify everything. Mouse over the header. And there's a more advanced system. So if you're really suspicious, you can ask for help. There's something called headers, which is kind of the background information on an email. It's an advanced technique, but you can actually see where it's truly coming from. And if you want help with looking at that, or you can always forward that email to the help desk, and we can take a look and see if it's real. And one other thing, this is a clicking thing and a browser thing too. So say you're doing a search on Google. Not a lot of people know this, but the searches can be fake as well. So when you do a search, there's an algorithm that goes and it looks for the most popular results, and it puts them at the top of the list, and you click them and you go to that web page. Hackers can sometimes figure out the algorithm and get their fake websites to pop up in the first couple of results on Google. Google watches for this all the time, but it can take up to 15 minutes before they see it and remove it. And in that time, maybe several thousand people have done it. So even then, so it's just what I'm trying to say is it's not necessarily safe just to look at your browsing stuff. Double check when you click a link in Google or any other search tool. Always be careful. And if you're not sure, just go directly to a website. It's you want to check on how do I reset something on Rogers. We do a Google search and it gives you kind of a weird site. Instead, just go to Rogers.com or give them a call and they can help you.
Thanks, Eric. So we're about halfway through. Any questions at this point? No? All right. Is the pace good for everybody?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was gonna wait to the end. Is it a good time to ask question?
Sure.
You can ask.
Yeah.
We'll try to make some room for questions at the end.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll also, if you want to ask a question now, feedback's always good to break things up.
Yeah. My email account is always being attacked. I receive always email like that. Something looks like a from Arabic language saying you have unpaid invoice or something. And also recently, my phone number, I think there are some part of some information being probably sold on like dark website, but I'm afraid to go to there to clean because I'm not sure if I pay someone to clean, is that a real, maybe, I have to enter my email password that maybe even cause more trouble. So I don't know what to do. And I get phone calls from states recently, like every day, like scam calls. So I usually don't respond. But is there nowadays, I don't know who to trust. I don't know whether I
Mhm.
should do a cleanup or don't do a cleanup.
Don't do a cleanup. Chances are it's not real.
Okay.
So yeah, there's people offering to do cleanups. Never go to them. Like if they've said, so a good example, and this happens on Facebook a lot. So say you're on Facebook, you click it and you get a pop-up saying you have some bad software on your computer, and a pop-up, please call this number and we're Microsoft or we're somebody else and we'll help you clean it. And then they want $50 to help you clean it up. They're the ones who made it in the first place. You're better off if you want to do a cleanup is if you have somebody that you know in person that can help you. A family, a friend, whatever, they can help you clean it up. As for the phone calls, there's not a ton you can do. There is a do not call list. The problem is they don't necessarily honor it. I'm a good example because I work in cybersecurity. I've annoyed a lot of them out there. So I'm on a lot of their lists. So I actually have my phone set up that I only take calls from people in my contact list, especially after hours, if late at night. So I've set that up. It's annoying, but there's not an easy way around it because the do not call list helps a little bit. It'll get rid of the legitimate callers that are just trying to sell stuff, but the scammers, they will continue to call. The best thing is just to ignore them, send them off to voicemail, and your phone provider will eventually figure out who they are and figure out their spam. But it can take a while and it can get really annoying.
Eric,
I understand your pain.
is it fair to say, like, if some of your personal information's on the dark web, it's virtually impossible to get it removed because it just gets copied, over and over into different lists?
Yeah, there are services out there that can clean it. They're quite expensive, and there's no guarantee that they will truly clean it. They're doing their best they can, but once it's out there, it's out there. The thing about the dark web stuff is the main things you want to do is never, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, is reuse a password. So with the dark web stuff is you put your username and password, you make one up, a username and password, you put it into a website, that company gets hacked, your username and password, and maybe any other personal information you had in there is then sold on the dark web. Other than not using that password again anywhere, there's not a whole lot you can do. Just be aware that they have that information. So when they're trying to do a phishing email on you, they're going to use that information in there to pretend like they know more about you than they do.
So basically, just simply ignore them.
Ignore them. That's the best thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's yeah. And ignore them. And as they come in, I on my phone, I set them as spam so that if they do call again from that same number, which they sometimes do, they sometimes don't, it just won't ring for them again.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. That answers your question, Sandy?
Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm, because a lot of time I'm just hesitating. So that's what the reason I joined this webinar today. I want to ask this question. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't pay anybody to help out.
Okay.
They're not. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Let's minimize. That's not minimizing. Okay. That box doesn't show up for everybody on my screen, does it?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, I just want to make sure it's not showing up for everybody. Okay, so suspicious links, verify, do not share personal and skepticism. Okay. And then I talked about the search results too. So Google, be careful. Even Google results, you need to be careful about. Okay, protecting your accounts and devices. No, once again, this applies to everything, not just work equipment. This is your personal phone, your home computer, anything you have. You want to make sure everything's secure as best you can. So we want to talk about passwords. Passwords were the be all and end all of things. There's better options now, but you still want to do good password hygiene. In particular, you want to do long ones, and if you can, do letters, numbers, symbols. But the main thing with a password is longer. The longer you can make it, the harder it is to crack. The minimum you want to do these days is 12 characters. I know that sounds like a lot, You're better off a longer password that has simple words in it than a short password with a whole bunch of different letters, because computers are so fast now, they can bulk crack, brute force, like in bulk your passwords if they're short. Like an 8-character password can be cracked in under an hour. 12-character password theoretically should take years, but the computers are getting stronger and stronger, so longer is better. I know people often ask me, well, I can't remember a 12. My passwords are all at least 20 characters long. I can't remember a password that long. What you do in those cases is something called a passphrase. So instead of this complicated random bunch of letters and numbers, do something like a long phrase like my favorite day of the week is Friday. That doesn't sound particularly complicated, but because it's so long, it's next to impossible to crack. So you can do my favorite day of the week is Friday 123. And that is a tough password to crack. I mean, brute force could take years and years and years to try and get through something like that. So just remember, longer is better. And if you have to do simple to make sure you remember. But more importantly, never reuse your password. That actually is the biggest problem. That's how most people get hacked by password things, is by reusing the password. So as we were talking just a minute ago, someone attacks a company where you've got an account, you've used a password there, they have that password. They have scripts that go out and log into every single computer on the internet that has a login thing and tries your email address and that password, and hopes that somewhere it's going to click off. They're going to try it everywhere. So as long as you've never reused that password more than one place, you don't have to worry about that.
So Eric, how do
Yep.
I maintain unique passwords for my different accounts?
There we go. That would be the next one. That would be password managers. So you want to have some kind of password manager out there. So there's a lot of different ones. You want to get one of the good ones. There are some not bad free ones. Can't think of any off the top of my head. Most common ones, especially for corporate stuff, is LastPass, which is what we use at work. I personally use one called 1Password, partly because it's Canadian Toronto based, but because it's very, very good and it's fairly cheap. I don't remember exactly what I'm paying, but the couple of things password manager will be is that way it'll let you know if you've reused any passwords. It can make suggestions for big, long, complicated passwords. It will then be able to fill those passwords in for you so you don't have to type them over and over again. But in itself, it's got its own security. So that's really the best way. Like I mean, Keith and I both, because we work in IT, we have literally thousands of passwords. If we didn't have a password manager, we wouldn't be able to function. So it's something to look into if you're going to start having a lot of passwords. I know some people keep their passwords in a notebook. In some ways, that's not a terrible thing. Don't ever save your passwords on your computer. Like, so say in a text file. So say you've got a little notepad file on your desktop. Don't put your passwords in there. If anybody ever gets access to your computer, that's the first thing they look for, is to try and find all your passwords for other things. So if worse comes to worse, a notebook is not bad as long as you keep it secure. It's old school, but it works. But a password manager, if you have access and you can get one, that would be definitely the way to go. And something else that password managers can do, and we're going to get into multi-factor in a minute, but is pass keys. That's a cryptographic key pair where it's almost impossible to crack, and it'll automatically do these pass keys, and you're seeing them more and more. So it's like a step above a password that is not brute forceable. We won't get too much into passkeys, but we'll talk about all the different MFAs in just a sec. I think it's the next slide.
I just threw a link to those two different password managers into the chat. I don't know if we can put it into the recording. I don't see it coming up on the recording. Maybe you can just show them. I don't know if you can type it onto your screen, like the LastPass. It's lastpass.com is one, and the other one is 1password.com.
Is there a chat function in here?
I don't know if the chat will come through the recording.
Oh, okay.
Can't remember.
I can't lower my sharing at the end.
That's okay.
We can put it in at the end.
Yeah, we can just type it in.
Okay. Multi-factor. I don't know if everyone's familiar with it. So multi-factor is all it means is sometimes you hear it called dual factor, but multi-factor is a more common one. Now is because it's something on top of your password. So other factors of ways of authenticating. It's extra security by having multiple ways of verifying. So say you probably, I'm sure people use it where you want to go online for your banking, you type in your password, and then they text your phone or phone you to say, is this you? Press 1. That's an example of multi-factor authentication. It makes a huge difference. Passwords can be cracked, passwords can be stolen, the different things, but that extra layer just makes it, they call it low-hanging fruit. People who just have a plain password, they're the low-hanging fruit, easiest to get to. If someone has more complicated, has MFA, they're going to skip that person and look for the person with the easier system. There's different types of MFA. There's codes where you get, like, say, on your phone. There's apps that pop up a code that you type in, or you press a button on your phone that says yes, okay. If you use Royal Bank at all, that's how theirs works. If you log into their online banking, when you go to log on your computer, your phone will pop up a message saying, "Hey, is this you?" And you click OK. There's also biometrics where you have to put your thumbprint, different things for that. Anything extra is multi-factor, and if it's available, you want to use it. If not every place supports it, more and more do. If you can do it, do it. It's worth it. I know it's a bit of a hassle, but it makes you it's 10 times more secure than just a password alone. It's not 100%. Some types are better than others, like, say, texting. Texting is the least secure of all because there's ways to send fake text, but it's still 10 times safer than just a password. And even if your passwords were stolen, so as I said, never reuse your password, but say you have, and that password is made it onto the dark net, a dark web. If you've got multi-factor, they still can't necessarily get into your account because they have to get that duplicate, that code to go on top of it. Now sometimes they'll try to reset the password. Like I was saying, they sent me a thing to put a code in. Got to watch out for those things because they can maybe guess your password and then try to reset it by doing the MFA. So you just have to be careful. But there's if you can do it, please use it. And the other thing, the new one, especially if you have a password manager, is the pass keys, which is about the most secure thing you can do right now. And they hook into your password manager. And they verify who you are, essentially. But multi-factor has that added bit that you have to be a person to be able to do it. A computer generally can't just duplicate that. Updates, patches, and backup. Software updates, so Windows updates, different things. If your computers are being supported by Starport, we have that in place. All the automatic updates are happening. The reason they're important is there's always bugs in software. People eventually figure out what the bugs are. They figure out ways to get around them to gain unauthorized access to your software and exploit the flaws in it. They most often do that in outdated software. As long as you keep your devices and applications updated as much as possible, it cuts almost all of that out. But you also have to be diligent too. So if you get a pop-up saying you have some Windows updates available, and you just keep doing ignore, and keep that up for months at a time, those vulnerabilities are there, and they may eventually get exploited. By regular software maintenance, doing updates when they're available, you can really prevent the majority of cyber attacks. And staying current and even security flaws, your stuff will run better. They'll fix bugs. Things won't crash on you quite so often. It's definitely where some people don't believe in Windows updates, and that's a mistake. They really are important, and not just for Windows, all your software, anything, your phone too. You'll get security updates on your phone. You definitely want to apply those as soon as possible. The other part of this is backups. Your work equipment generally are automatically backed up, but you want to do that for your personal stuff too. And the reason for that is, number one, ransomware. I mentioned ransomware earlier. So they're encrypting everything, and they want you to pay to get your stuff back. Well, if you have a good backup, you don't care. If your backup was run in the last hour, worst you're going to lose is some data from the last hour, and you can always restore it. But there's also hardware. Your computer dies. If you have a good backup, you can easily get your new computer up and running. And also, we all make mistakes. We delete things. Having a backup makes a difference. You can restore it. You can look at old versions. You can different things. It really is essential. And if something terrible does happen, you get hacked or whatever, and you're all down, having good backups will, reduce the amount of stuff you lose and make it much quicker to get back on top and things running again. Backups can be different types. You want something, you don't want to back up to just another folder on your computer. That's because if it gets encrypted, then that other folder is getting encrypted. You want to do something separate, whether it's to the cloud, OneDrive, say from Microsoft or Google Drive, different things there. USB devices, the hard drives, thumb drives, different things like that. Even copying to another computer. Can be a backup, or any devices you have. But backups are really important, and even pictures. I mean, you don't ever want to lose all your family pictures. You want to have them backed up in different places. It's important. They may not get encrypted, but you could lose them. And on all your personal stuff. Emerging risks and social awareness. There's a lot of new technologies coming out, and they're all the time. It's hard to keep up. And with those new technologies, some of them are great, but they also, can increase more threats out there. So in particular, AI generated attacks. AI is good for a lot of stuff, but it's also good for a lot of bad things too. You got your deep fakes, you got your misinformation that's happening. You really, you got to just keep on top of it. It's good to stay informed. Try to educate yourself as much as possible, and adapt to the new risks, because they're out there. You either give up, don't bother doing anything new, or embrace the new stuff, but be aware of what can happen if you're not careful. Ongoing learning and vigilance are key. AI. These days I don't think we can do a presentation without talking about AI a little bit. There's really two parts to AI. There is the AI that's out to cause trouble towards you, that people are using to hurt you, get information, so they can use AI can create tools that can pretend to be you. They can try to get into your system. The phishing emails you used to get a few years ago were a joke. And you can spot them in a second. Now with AI, they grab a little bit of information about you on the internet, and they write these emails that seem really accurate. So you have to watch out for that. And then they also do things to kind of trick you. Why some people put in misinformation, I understand, but you got to be careful about the things you read, and always confirm. They'll create fake content, all kinds of different deceptions. So that's the offensive part of AI. And then there's I don't know if defense is the right part of it, but using AI. I mean, once you've used AI a little bit for doing some things, you're gonna. So how did I live without it? It's so helpful. Just to figure out things. I'm going on a new diet, so I want to make a meal plan. You tell AI what you want, and it'll help you put together the meal plan. It's amazing what it can do. But you got to remember, anything you put into AI, never believe it's truly private. I mean, even though it's not just, someone can't say, what did John Doe put into AI? I want to see everything he's been typing in. It's not that. But say someone's looking for the same sort of thing you are, and they put it in, because it's used trying to learn all the time, it might possibly take your information and use that to help somebody else, but expose your information in that time. So you just got to be careful. Don't assume it's not secure when you're actually using AI yourself. And as well, don't believe everything AI tells you. Even if you put in information, the responses back aren't necessarily accurate or true. If someone else has put bad information in just to be difficult, you may poison some of the things you're doing. So just be aware and don't trust everything. It's not perfect, that's for sure. But it is there, and it's part of our lives, and I don't think it's gonna go away. So it's something to really stay on top of. And our last thing is just social media in general. I mean, I've touched on Facebook a little bit earlier, but there's all the different ones. There's Twitter, there's Instagram, but there's Facebook is a big one that's full of misinformation. You have to be so careful what you click on. But in particular, is you just want to keep your private stuff private. Be careful about what you click on. Be careful about what you share. Oversharing, people do it all the time. You go onto Facebook, and you telling everyone about your your family, your grandkids, even your pets. I mean, especially if they have any little information that they can find out. But one big thing that happens, and this has happened, is I'm going on the vacation of a lifetime next week. I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks, so don't bother phoning me. I'm going to be having a great time out in the sun. Well, someone might see that and realize that someone's not going to be at your house for that time. So you have to be careful and really think through what you're sharing. And you can actually, it's not just be careful what you type. You can actually lock down your accounts too. You can say, I only want to share my information with family and friends. And there's usually options to try and do those type of things. And finally, if someone else reaches out to you on social media, make sure it really is who you think it is. Someone contacts you on Facebook and says, hey, we were friends 30 years ago in high school. Maybe you don't remember them, but you don't want to be rude and deny them. Double check with other people who might remember that person, see if it really is who it is you think it is, or even someone pretending to be the police. They'll contact you through social media and say, well, we need to look into this. Be skeptical. If you have to be rude, be rude. It's better to be careful than to be pulled into any kind of scams. And that is the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. So people who do work for Holy Trinity, this is the information for reaching out. So you can email the help desk at help@starport.ca. We also have a phone number. It won't be picked up live, but you can leave a voicemail and that will go to our service desk and open a ticket. We have a website, and there's a perfect example. You can always go to that website and take a look, and you'll see the little secure symbol there. And then, I see Keith. Oh, very good, Keith. Keith has put in a couple of the password managers. As I was saying, so LastPass, they're both good. There's a few other ones that are very good as well. You want to look at price, but you want to make sure it's one of the good ones. So LastPass is what we use at Starport, and 1Password is what I use for personal, and they're both excellent, and they work on your computer, on your phone. You don't have to worry about coming up with unique passwords. It'll save them. The main thing is, and they won't let it, the thing is, you have to have very secure of that system, because if that was to get hacked, then you'd be in trouble. But they don't let you be insecure. They make sure that things are secure. They double check everything. As soon as you try to log into on a new device, they double check on your old device and make sure it's really you. So they do help you a lot there. Questions? Anything anybody wants to know? Any anecdotes, security things you've run into? Anything you want to talk about that you want to share? Feel free. We have a few more minutes, I think.
Quick question. Is removing your browsing history, is that effective?
Effective from protecting you from hackers? Not necessarily.
It says a lot of your browsing is stored.
It is, but that would mean they'd have to have access to your computer for them to actually see the browsing history. Now, if you're on a public computer, absolutely 100% remove the history. On your home computer, not quite as important, because if they have access to your computer, they're going to know what you're doing anyhow. So not necessarily needed for your home computer, but if you're anywhere public, for sure, clear your browsing history. Now, it doesn't hurt to clear it anyhow. I mean, just because your computer will run a little faster. It's not filling out things for you, so it doesn't hurt, but I don't think it's 100% necessary to do it for your own all the time.
Okay.
However, something other for browsing. So we talked a bit about password management. Something in your browser can save your passwords. So, you go to a website, you type in a user and password. Google Chrome might pop up a message saying, hey, I'll save that for you. In its own, it's not necessarily bad, but it's not a true password manager. If someone did get access to your computer, they can find out that information that's in those passwords. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Dolores.
Anyone
More
else?
questions?
Hi, this is Sandy again. I'm just wondering, is the password manager's passkey store your password? Because I'm always afraid somebody may hack in if you store your password in the passkey or password manager.
It will store them in the password manager, but the security, I mean, their whole business is protecting that. So you are putting a little bit of trust and faith into them. And their encryption levels are crazy. So yeah, you are taking a minor risk, but The risk of not doing it, I think, is higher. So that's the trade-off. So it would store them, and it does know about them because it will. You can have a check to see. It'll let you know if you've reused a password in different places. So yeah, it is being stored with them, but they are being heavily encrypted. And if they were, that's why you want to go with one of the big name brands ones. And when they have had problems, like LastPass has had problems in the past, people's passwords necessarily haven't been stolen, but they have had problems. But they have the encryption and protections in place that even though they themselves got hacked, people's passwords didn't. So. But it comes down to faith. I mean, you have to give a little bit of faith for them to help protect you. But yeah, you are storing your password there.
Okay. So what is like big name for the passkey or password managers? And also, can you recommend a good one for the multi-factor authentication?
So multi-factor, there's quite a few different ones.
Mm.
So if you're using Microsoft, they have one called Authenticator. That's theirs. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. So that's the one they like you to use. Google has one as well. Google's is very good. So, and what it does is usually when you go to a website, you set up your account, you set up MFA, and then it'll give you a code to put into Google Authenticator. And every minute it generates a new code. So your code's only good for 1 minute, and then it flips to another one. So either it'll do that you have to type in that code in the minute, or it'll also do a thing where it can pop up and say, "Are you who you say you are?" And you press OK. So those are the two main ones.
Does
I would use.
Eric, do iPhones have an app for MFA codes?
I am not a good person to ask for that one.
Okay, I don't know, because the reason I bring it up is I know, like, I use the Google Authenticator for some things on my phone, and the advantage is that if I get because I have a Google phone, if I move to a new phone, when I log into my Google account, it pulls in all of my codes, my multi-factor codes, which can be an issue when you're transferring from phone to phone. So I don't know. I assume maybe the iPhone would have an app as well, so that if you're using, they don't, John? No? Okay.
Okay. Although
Not that I've been able to find.
Okay. So do you use Google or Microsoft?
No, I just I use 1Password, and I've used the dual multi-factor thing. So wherever I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So the password managers do have their own apps. Like LastPass, I use it for personal, and then there's a LastPass multi-factor code application that you can install, and it stores all your codes as well.
Okay.
With your login. Same, I'm sure, as the 1Password.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And I just took a look at iPhone. You can use Microsoft Authenticator and Google Authenticator on there as well.
Okay.
So those are two
Gotcha.
you can use.
Microsoft Authenticator. Okay.
Yeah.
I like the Google Authenticator one. It's very good. It's quick and it's clean. So, but the Microsoft one's okay as well. The Microsoft one, they tried to make it do more than it needed to, and they realized they were making it too complicated, so they scaled it back and made it more like Google's again.
Eric, I'd just like to emphasize a point you made. The risk, at least in my opinion, the risk between using a password manager and they're getting hacked versus you not using one at all, it doesn't even compare.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
you're taking a huge risk if you aren't really managing your passwords. And if anybody, well, I think all of us must have a gazillion passwords floating around somewhere. And yeah, I just want to emphasize this, that there's really not a comparison.
Yeah,
The risk
I
is
agree.
astronomical compared to the risk associated with a good password manager.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I actually did, just as an example. So I use a password manager for my personal, and they have a family plan. So I was able to set up all my kids, my wife, and I also set up my mother-in-law and my father, who are kind of the keepers of the keys in their respective relationships. So I don't know, that's even something you could consider, like, do this as a family, make it a family affair that you're teaching and helping to set these things up. amongst the family, or it could be friends that you can share the life. It's usually cheaper also to do that if you use. Sometimes they have these family plans.
Yeah, and once in a while they go on sale too, so it's worth watching. So one pass with the family plan, you can have 5 people. I think it's $6 a month, Canadian, and it does 5 people. And sometimes they have sales on. It's worth looking. So it's worth doing. And that's what I do, a family plan as well. It covers my wife, my mother, a couple other family members too.
Any more questions? Any